Welcome back, everybody. It's an honor and privilege to have you on board. As you may or may not know, don't know, I've been working on these 4 videos the past 2 days, focusing on general equilibrium, using X with box diagram, etc., etc. It's not the end. There's still one or two or a couple in the making, so just hold on to your seats for that. But I needed to do something else a little bit. And so I thought, let's work a little bit on RStudio. I'm doing quite a bit of work in RStudio at the moment. But let's start with the basics of regression analysis in RStudio. So that will be the focus of my video going forward. But for those that's new, please like and subscribe, share the videos. It really does help the channel grow, and to also show me whether there's some value, whether there's some need for these sort of things. So yeah, please. So RStudio. I'm not going to go into all the details of RStudio. I think there's some other videos that you guys can work through, etc., etc. Just to take note that it is a free software. But remember, there's 2 packages that you need to download and install, which is R, sort of the background, in RStudio. So loosely, when we talk about R, we actually talk about RStudio. But remember, you need R and you need RStudio to run this type of work. Okay, so let's assume you've downloaded, installed R and RStudio. You're going to open it. Initially, you get just the one window here, etc., etc. But I'm not going to assume all of those things. But let's start from where you want to start working your first sort of regression work within RStudio. Now, what is very, very important is that all your files, your data, all of it must be visible on this bottom right window. If it's not here, that means your script or your coding and your data is not linked to one another. It has to be linked. So that's very, very important. Make sure your data sits there. So if you go to files here, that button there, your data must be in this file. And there's your data. See, there's my data file that I'm going to use. So when you load the data, they are loading the data. There it is. And it must be there. Okay, exactly the same format, exactly the same name. Everything must be identical. Okay, so how do we do that? You basically go to File, you go to New Project. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go. And then you go to Existing Directory. Okay, and then you search for the directory on your laptop or your desktop where your data is, and you simply just select it. And then that should appear then here. So that's point number 1. It's crucial. You have to link your script or your code to your files, to your data. Okay? Not just data, but if you do GIS related stuff, then your raster files or your shape files or any of the things that you use, your information, data, images, whatever, anything that you're going to use here must be visible here. If not, the 2 is not linked, and it's going to say you don't know what you're talking about. So that's very important. And I said you use the new project when you initially start. You do the new project, find existing directory, select your existing directory. The data should then, or your folders should then be visible here. That's crucial. Very, 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 very important. If it's not here, it's not going to work. Okay, so that's point number 1. Point number 2 is to install your packages. Okay, to install your packages. Now, as you work on RStudio, you start building these packages. And all of a sudden you've got them all covered. But you may now and again find that you want to do a specific activity or run a specific function or perform a specific function, and it will here at the bottom tell you, sorry, I can't perform the function. As soon as you see that comment, can't perform the function, or cannot do this, then you know there's a package outstanding. Think about it as apps on your cell phone. If you want to check the weather, for example, you have to have the weather app. If you want to check the stock market, you have to do that map. If you want to look at the exchange rate, or if you want to look at pictures, whatever. You have to have an app. Your desktop. If you want a Word, then you have to have Word. If you want to Excel, you have to Excel, etc. So it's exactly the same with R as well. Okay, and it's easy. If you get the warning, listen, I can't do this, you just go to Google and say, what's a package for, that's an RStudio package to do whatever the thing is that you want to do, and it will give you the name of the package. Okay, so because there's really thousands and thousands of packages. So to know exactly which package to use when is difficult. But as I said, R fortunately tells you that it can't do. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you which package. It just tells you it can't do it. But that's why Google is your friend. So Google it. Okay. And then the code simply is install.packages, open bracket curlies, and the name of the package. So that is standard lingo or standard code for installing packages. Okay, so that's really simple. Now, you only install this, let's say once. Let me not say once. You may have to update it, but if you've installed it, you don't have to keep on installing it. Okay. I do once a quarter, or when I update RStudio, I do just reinstall it. Why? Because there could be updates to each package. Okay, these packages are not static; they are dynamic. Some of them keeps being updated, so it's good to now and again, not every single time, you work in RStudio. But as I said, I do it once a quarter when I update my RStudio. Because that's also being updated continuously, then I would update my packages. But in general, as I said, once a quarter, I will update it. Okay. But every time there's a new installed package, you need to install it. Okay. You need to install it. So that's installed packages. As I said, they're in RStudio. There's lots of, there's Google, you can find them, etc. Okay. If you want to, there's packages here as well. You can look at for them there. If you look at packages here, they will give you all of the packages, the description, the version, all of these things. So there's a whole lot of these packages as well. So you can search for them as well. And then you can just install directly from here, or you do it via this. So that's the option. I prefer to do it here. It's just, I think, habit. But anyway, you can select it here, etc. But anyway, I prefer it to do. And as I said, I do it once a quarter. Then I would go and do this. However, what is important is that you have to activate the packages every single time you start RStudio. So whether you go away for 10 minutes or whether you exit, remember it's exit. So when I close it and I restart it, every time I restart RStudio, you have to activate it. And how do you do it? Library, etc. And then the name in brackets, not the curlies, etc. Just the normal brackets. Okay, so and I don't have to do that one by one. I normally just highlight them all of them highlighted, and I run and press run. And you let it go. Let's let it run till the last one, which is PLM, etc. And what I normally tend to do is I run it twice. Okay, so now you see from the first one, T-Series, to the last one, PLM, they're all in blue. That means that you have successfully installed it, it is available, and you've successfully activated. Now it's ready to be used. Okay. If for the second time it gives you errors, then you know you have to either uninstall it and reinstall it, or just reinstall it. Okay, just by clicking on it and you say run. If you get this, you know it's already, then you just click no. Okay, so it's not going to install it now again. It's already installed. You can run it a third time. So there's no maximum amount that you can run. You can run it, but as I said, I normally don't do it a second and a third time, just to make sure it's all blue. Because blue is magic. So that's important. So, okay. So there's three important parts now. Okay. First thing, all my files must be here at the bottom. If you can't see your files, you can't see the data, the images, whatever you're going to use, it's not going to work. It has to be here. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is that you have to install the packages that you're going to need to run it. Okay, and you'll only know that as you go along. You don't know this beforehand. You don't know exactly what you're going to do, and therefore you don't know the packages that you're going to use. As you go along, you start building these packages, and every time you install a package, you have to activate it. And every time you start it, you have to activate all the packages. Okay, so that's three important points to remember. Now, if you don't do those three things, it's not going to work. Okay, so that becomes sort of, just standard operating procedures. Okay, so now you have, in theory, you have RStudio set up, ready to go. You are now good to go. Now, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to do basic regression work, and specifically we're going to go, time series work. Okay, because we can do cross-sectional, we can do panel, that's going to be a bit different, maybe for a different video. But in this case, we're going to do time series work, and we're first only going to focus on OLS, ordinary least square regression. Okay, because that's the basic point for any econometrics, for any regression is OLS, ordinary least square. So that's where we're going to start. So once we make sure the data is there, I've got basic packages installed, I've activated my packages. The next thing is I need to bring my data into RStudio, because RStudio doesn't know. Remember, it's like a baby. You have to teach RStudio. You have to be very patient with it in the beginning. Add it little by little by little. So that's now the next step, is to bring your data. Now here's another couple of very, very key important points. Your data has to be in the correct format. If you bring it in and it's not the correct format, layout, etc., it's not gonna work. So you have to be very, very careful with your data. You have to be very clear with your data. It has a specific format and has a specific layout. If you don't do that, it's also gonna bomb out. Okay, so let's have a look and see what our data set looks like. Okay, so there's my data set that I'm going to use. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, you see it's got a date. Now that's important because it's time series. And it's monthly data. You can see that's monthly data. 12 months, and then the next month, etc. Then I've got year, month, season, maximum temperature, L max temperature. I will go for the names of it, etc., etc. So that's also okay. So that's also very important. Is the variable names. Now, don't go for the longest, most complex variable names available. Make it short. Make it sweet. Make it as straightforward as possible. Okay. Because you're going to have to type these things over and over and over in RStudio, and if you make a mistake, you're going to have problems. Okay, so another hint, with the variable names, no points, no dashes, no underscores, no commas, nothing. Very straightforward, very easy, okay? No spaces. So no spaces, no commas, no dots, nothing, no funny business, no numbers, etc., etc. Just very straightforward, etc., etc. Okay, so that's important in your variable. Take note of that. Don't write stories. Just A, B, C, D, whatever the case might be. Okay, even these things are already complicated. Precipitation, soil moisture. Now, as I said, these are also already problematic. It's already, in my mind, there's a mix of capital and lower level letters. That's already problematic. That's a long thing there. Participation, that's also already problematic. But there's no spaces, there's no commas, there's no numbers, etc., etc. So that's very good. Okay. The next thing is no commas in the data itself. No commas. All the commas have to be converted into points, dots. Okay. So that's another important thing. No commas. So if your spreadsheet like mine have commas, because in my Excel I can't do anything with dots. So for example, if I say, let's say that plus that, it will give me an error because in my Excel dots are seen as text, not as numbers. Okay, so for example, if I change that to a comma and I change that into a comma, then you'll see it will give me a value because it uses commas as decimals, not dots. So as soon as I have dots in here, it throws me out. But for Excel, I need to have everything into dots. So how do I do that? So if you have like 10,000 observations, not to go for each and every one, that's obviously take you forever. So it's simple. You just go to the find and replace function within Excel. So find what? I want to find my commas and I replace it by dots. And you just say replace all. And it's going to find the two and voila. It's done. So it's actually very, very straightforward. So don't stress. It's a very quick function, but important function. So names and dots. Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3 is my date format. Okay, my date format. So whether it's annual data, quarterly data, weekly data, doesn't matter. It has to be in this format. Okay, weekly data most probably is not going to work. There's a different format for daily, weekly and stuff, but monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, annual data, put them all. If it's annual data, it will be 1960-01, 02, 1961-01, 1961 0101, 1961 0101, 1962 0101, whatever the case might be. So not in this format. If it's annual, it has to be this format. Now, so it's going to be the year, the month, and the date. Okay, the year, the month, and the date. So that's important. Okay, the year, /, not a hyphen, a comma, a space, whatever, /, 01, not 1, 01, /, not 1, 01, etc. It has to be in this specific case. Now, if your data is not in this case, again, don't stress. Don't stress about that. You're going to select your data. You're going to right click if it's not in this format, okay? You're going to select your data. You're going to right click. You're going to say go format cells, okay? And then in format cells, you're going to go custom. And you see this is the custom, okay? Year, month, and date. If it's not there, okay? If it's not there, then you go to special, okay? Sorry, you're going to go custom. And now in my case, as I said, it's already there. Where is it now? Go and look for it. Here we go. Year, month, and date. If not, then you're going to type it in there. Okay, so then you're going to type it. So then you're going to type it here, and you're going to say /. Then you're going to do month, / day, and you press OK, and it will do it. Okay, so if it's not that format, as I said, just highlight it, right click, go format cells, go custom, find it if it's not there. If it's not there, you go to type and you type it in exactly as that. You press OK, and it will do it in that format. So again, you don't have to do that one by one by one. You just select all your data and you use that function. So in Excel, There's functions for everything. That makes your life much, much, much easier. Okay. So, very important. Keep your variable name simple, straightforward, no fancy business. Make sure all your commas are dots in your data. There's no commas, everything is dots. And make sure your date, your time is in that specific format. And I said, it's easy to convert this all or to use functions in Excel to do this. Okay, very, very easy. Make sure there's no formulas. Make sure there's no pictures, only the data. There must be nothing below it. There must be nothing to the right of it. And then save your data within your folder as a CSV file, comma, delimited. Okay. You go to the bottom there, save as type. You go to CSV, right, you go down, click here, you find the CSV and you press save. I'm not going to save it, it's already saved there. Okay. So that's important. Now, and I said what needs to happen now is that data set needs to sit there. There it is. It needs to be there. Okay. Now we need to make sure that data is correct. And we're going to have a look at that now to make sure that we have a proper data set. Because if we don't have a proper data set, then how can you do anything? You're not going to be able to do anything. Okay, so now we're going to bring our data into our work. We're going to bring it into our project. Okay, how do we do that? We create a name for it. Now again, don't write the story there, straightforward, nothing to it, easy peasy. Okay, because again, you'll have to retype it over and over and over and over again. So don't make it complex. Keep it straightforward, keep it simple, nothing to it. Okay, in my case, I call it my data. You can call it whatever you want to call it. In general, everything to the left of the smaller hyphen thingamajig, anything to the left of it is up to your discretion. It is your names that you can apply. But again, take it from me, keep it simple, don't make it complicated. Okay, then the smaller, that little, what do you call that sign? What do you call that sign now? I can't remember, I'll figure it out now. Then read.csv, okay, so I'm going to read a CSV file, and that's why I bring in the read.xl package. So that read.xl package is basically allows you to do this. Okay. So it is the name of what I'm going to call it. The smaller as, little sign and that thing, read.csv, open brackets, curlies, the name of your data, the full data set as it appears here, with the type.csv, not just data, data.csv, close curly brackets. Okay. So that's why it's important, that's why I give it very simple and straightforward name. Don't make it complex. Then a comma. Now in general, you can stop there. You can close it there and stop there. Okay, and that should be fine. However, I want to make sure that I read it correctly into my project, into my workspace. So I'm going to say to RStudio, yes, the header, it has a header. So the first column is my header. If it was a second column or whatever, you're going to change it there. But yes, my first column is the header. Okay, it normally assumes it, but I just want to make sure it's right. Now, here is an important thingamajig. This is very important. Is the SEP. Now, the SEP doesn't stand for the month of September. It stands for separation. Okay. So remember, in our spreadsheet, in our CSV spreadsheet, you see the variables are separated by this line. Okay, A to B, B to C, it's separated by the lines. Okay, so what R wants to know is this line. What separates these variables? What separates these observations, or what separates these columns. Okay, remember this columns, that's rows. Okay, what separates these columns? Okay, what separates these columns? Now, in my case, when I save it to CSV, it saves it as a comma point. Okay, in CSV, it separates by a comma point. Yours may be a comma. You need to get understanding in your CSV, what is the separator? What separates what is the columns? Is it a comma point or is it a comma? As in my case, it's a comma point. How do we know it? You run it. So let's run it. Okay, see it's blue, meaning it has successfully uploaded the data. Let's take this away. See, this is empty. Now, anything that you create will locate it there. So let's say that. If it says there, you see, there it lies. It says 732 observations of 12 variables. Okay, so let's confirm. Variables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know it is correct. So if, for example, let's clear it again. And I use a comma. I use a comma and I run it. You see, it says one variable. So therefore, it didn't separate the columns. So if I press on this, you'll see it's all like in one column. But you can see the semicolons. See there? It's separated by a semicolon. You see, there's the date, then the year, or then the variable year, month, year, then the variable, you see there, seasons. It's all in one column. But you can see within the data, it separates the columns are semicolons. The columns are separated by a semi-point, semicolon. So therefore, I know that my separator is in fact not a comma, but a semicolon. And I'm going to run it, and you'll see it's a 12 variables. Okay, so that's extremely important. Now, as I said, I can click on this, and there's my data set. See, the variable names are correct, no spaces, no numbers, no funny business. My date is correct. Year / month / day. And no commas. Everything is dots. Okay. You can close it. You can keep it. I can close it. So that's very important. Now, eventually, you are ready to go. Okay. So a lot of work just to get going. But if you don't do that work, if you don't spend the time and the effort to make sure everything is sorted up to this point, then you're going to have problems. So you're going to want to do stuff, and you're going to have all sorts of problems with RStudio. You're going to get very angry with RStudio, and you want to throw it out of the window. You want to bounce on it. You want to drive over it, but it's not the fault of RStudio. It is your fault. You have to take the time and the effort to get to this point in the correct fashion, in the correct manner. If you don't, you're going to have endless problems. So please, please, please make sure that everything is in order, okay? And once you've done it, it's actually easy. Now just remember, every time I now make a change here, in the original spreadsheet, if I make a change, every time I make a change, I have to rerun it, okay? So now let's say I'm now happily working, I'm doing all sorts of things, and I remember, oops, I need to make a change, okay? I go back to the original, I do something, let's say make this 0.82. Okay? And I save it. Okay, and I save it. Now you see it's still here. If I click there, it's still 0.81. It won't change until I run it. Now it will be 0.82. Okay, so that's important. Every time I make a change in my data set, I have to rerun it. Okay, because RStudio won't know what the hell I'm doing. Okay, so it requires that I continuously update. Then Start all over again, basically. We start all over again from there. Okay. So once I've done it, and I'm going to conclude now for this particular video. Once I've done this, then there's another sort of little code that I normally try to do, and that is attach my data. Now, what does that do? See, it's blue. It doesn't do anything. Nothing has happened. But basically, what it does is just to say, this is the data set I'm going to use. I'm going to use this data set. Now, it assumes it, but I just want to reinforce it. It's like, you know, when somebody offers me a chocolate, I know I'm going to like it, but the person say, well, you know you're going to like it. Just reinforces it. Okay? So that's important. That's not a natural step. This just follows. Once I've loaded the data, I just attach it again. It doesn't necessarily make the end of the world, but I just want to make sure. I don't want to get half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later, and then there's issues. So I just do it. Then there's different ways of viewing the data. And again, I add this because I want to make sure that my data is correct. Again, I don't want to spend all the time and effort, and there's an issue with my data. I'm not going to be a happy bunny. So you can just say my data, run it. What does that do? It displays the data here at the bottom. And again, I just want to make sure my date is in the correct format here. And I'm just checking for the initial numbers to see if they're right. There's no diffs. There's 0.82, the one that I've just changed. There's no errors. There's no missing data. There's no diffs. There's no nothing. Everything looks fine. So I can just do this. Or I can say view data. Then it will open it here. Same as if I just press there. If I don't want to look at all my data, I can say dim. What does dim does? It just tells me I've got 732 observations for 12 variables. Exactly the same as what it says here. And you can cross-reference it in here if you want to. You see there's 12. We already counted that. And there's 732 rows. 732 rows. Remember, I started at 1, not at 0. So that's sorted. And then I can do the head. That only gives me the first 4 variables of each variable. And you can change it. Anything in blue you can change. Okay. Then I can do some describe. What does describe? Gives me basic descriptive statistics, mean, standard deviation, median, minimum, maximum range, skewness, kurtosis, standard error, n, trimmed. I'm not sure what trimmed is. It looks like it's the same as median. No, not the same. Not sure what trimmed is. Mad. Mean absolute deviation. I don't know. Could be. Anyway, and then I can, another descriptive statistic function is stat.descriptive. My data. And there it is. Min, max, range, sum, median, mean, variance, standard deviation, coefficient of variance, etc., etc. So those couple of codes is just to cross-reference my data, just to make sure that it is correct. I don't see any errors, I don't see any warnings, I don't see any problems. Now, obviously, I can cross-reference it with my data. Now, not in the CSV, but in Excel file, I can cross-reference it. I've got the same numbers. Okay. So that I just normally run it, and as I said, it's just for me to make sure my data is prim and proper. Okay. Then the final thing before we're going to conclude for this video, I need to specify to R my date. Okay. I need to specify. R doesn't know that this is my date series in my time series work. It's not going to know this. I have to say R, this is my date, my time series part, this one here. Okay, how do I do that? Date, and this again, it's to the left of this little thing over here. So you can call it whatever. I just call it date. As.date with a capital D, and then open brackets. Now where? Go to my data. What is my data? My data is this file. Go to this file. Okay, go to this file. and look, this dollar sign, go and look for the variable name date. Go and look for date within my data, that variable name. Okay, and there it is. Now it must be exactly the same. If it's capital, it's capital. If it's lowercase, it's lowercase. Whatever, how it's presented, that's the way it must be presented here. And you see now, format equals curly brackets, percentage here in capital, / percentage, M monthly in lowercase, / percentage, D for day in lowercase. Okay, so make sure it's exactly this format. Okay, the Y is capital, the month and the date is lowercase. Okay, and as I said, whatever the name you gave it, dollar sign, and then the name of the variable in your data set, the name as you expressed it in your data set. And I said if it's capital, it must be capital. If it's higher, whatever. Okay, so let's run it. And there it is. Now again, it's blue, so that's fine, but it would be blue any case. And then you'll see it's 1960. It's exactly as it should be in your spreadsheet. Okay, if not, so let's, for example, just quickly do that. And let's do that as a small d. Okay, just to show you. Then we run it. You see, it says not found. Can't find it. Okay, so it's very case sensitive, etc., etc. So there we go. My data date. What is it saying now? As date. My data. Okay, let's just rerun it again. And I'm gonna, let's make it a D there. See, you see, with the date, it's blue, but you see, he doesn't pick it up because he doesn't know where to go and look. There's not, that variable doesn't exist in my data set. So it must be exactly the same. And let's run it. See, there it sits. If I make that a capital D, let's run it. You see, not applicable. So it's very, very sensitive. You have to be very, very clear on what you do. Be very, very precise. Okay. And then the structure, just give you that. So date is a character. Here is an integer, meaning a whole number. And then these others are numbers, decimal numbers. Okay. So that's just to make sure my variables are in the correct format. And there we go. So let me park there for now. And then remember always to save. Let me park there for now. And because this is just setting it up. This is getting everything ready for you to start working on it. Okay, so please check for that. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying it. I certainly love working in R, but I said R has its little gremlins. It has its little thingamajigs that it wants. It's very, very specific. You have to be very specific. Okay, so yeah. If you have any specific, if there's problems, if you're struggling with anything up to now, loading this or that, please let me know. Happy to assist and help you. But I said, yeah, just follow this and make sure that the T and the I's, the T's are dotted and the I's are, I don't know what's it, I's are dotted and T's are crossed, to make sure you're up to it. Now, I keep on saying we're ready, but now we are actually ready to start working in RStudio, to start doing our first regression. Okay. Yes, I hope you find this useful. And so, yeah, the next set of videos is in the making. So look out for that. It will be on the channel very, very soon. Yeah. And again, thank you for watching. And if you find this worthwhile, please like and subscribe and share the videos. It does help a lot to grow the channel. So with that said, boys and girls, thank you. And I'll see you on the other side.